we're going to tell you in the next 2.5 hours of how we got here. It's from a direction going, if this election would have got overturned right away, or if we hadn't had that what happened on the night of November 4th, in the middle of the night, if these things hadn't happened, all of it wouldn't have been revealed. So you got to take it from that perspective. It's a miracle, the things we're going to tell you now, and as we go through this. And I'll start. Was the night of the election, and when we went to, let me see if I can get it here. When we went to about 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, this is before all this, they stopped counting. If everybody can see this, I mean, it's over right there. It was over, okay? Well, as we all know, at the middle of the night, they stopped everything. These are called deviations. Week and turn into this. And so I'm watching that, and that didn't make sense because the votes that were going to come in, that were left to come in, where Donald Trump would have won Arizona. So the media was so terrible, and they still are, because that's a miracle. Otherwise, they would have reported all this stuff and, you know, like, night. Well, 106,000 votes came out right in the middle of the night. What I told you to you all, those mail-in votes, I said they all went for Biden. Well, here's the truth. The mail-in votes, where did those votes come from? So these are things that are happening in this media, and then you have Fox News. You know, we're going to talk a lot about Fox News. How horrible that they don't talk about anything, but we're going to get to that. This is what really hit home, everybody. In Nevada, it was reported that was 4,000 non-residents that voted in Nevada. Now, this one hit me home because I looked up the law in Nevada. You have to be a resident for 30 days, and I couldn't put my head together going, I can't imagine 4,000 some people jumping into Nevada to commit a felony to put their vote in. It didn't make sense, okay? And then I'm starting finding it happened all over the place. States where for the first time, 5,000 non-resident voting, 8,000. A lot of your states this afternoon will also be reporting that because now we know a lot more now than we knew then, okay? But that was me. These were big red flags for me that really sent me, going. It was every day consuming from morning till night. It has been for a year and a half. Yeah. So then I heard about Sidney Powell out there. I met her one time at a CPAC thing, at a book signing thing, and I met Sidney Powell, and I didn't meet her. They had a phone call. And I had a private conversation. I said, is there evidence? And she said, it's pouring in. She said, there's so much they couldn't. It was like, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Just piles and piles of evidence. And I said, what about the machines? She said, that's going to be the biggest bonus. We have to get to the machines because all the stuff didn't make sense of the evidence pouring in. And she had brought up, and that's when and then at that point, we all, I'm not sure what video this is. I guess oh yeah, here we go. Okay, this is Chris Krebs. I don't know if we have volume here. I'll start talking, then I'll play it again, hopefully volume 4. We were all told to lie back then by Chris Krebs, and he said it's the most secure election ever. You all remember that?
Representatives from the election security community issued a joint statement reflecting a consensus perspective that the 2020 election was the most secure in U.S. history.
Okay, now here's what Chris Krebs said just a few months later.
Congressman Schiff, I think that the threat from China, that as it's been described, and the growing threat is definitely a top priority there. How are you looking at addressing them?
You're right, it is an absolute top threat. We have been doing a deep dive on the China threat for the last couple of years and really concluded that the intelligence community needed to reorient its resources to address this very powerful competitor in every domain, in space, land, sea, in the cyber realm.
Can you be more specific on China? I think people understand that China broadly is a threat, and I know this is what you'll be picking through at the hearing today. But if you're an American sitting watching this show right now, what is the most immediate threat that China poses?
Well, probably what would strike people most in their living room right now is that China has one of the most capable cyber hacking and cyber espionage capabilities. So China may be in the process of stealing your private data. They may have already stolen your private data. If you're a business owner or business leader, they may have stolen your corporate trade secrets. They may be hacking into government agencies to steal defense plans. So this is, how China's actions influence people's lives every day.
China is much more subtle, much more patient. It's almost a rope-a-dope. They kind of lull you to sleep. You don't see it. They use their soft power very effectively. And even at the level they can politics, not just here, but also in our local communities. They influence local races.
Okay. This was one of the big lies the media told us. They quote that it's the most secure election ever. They have used that over and over, haven't they? We've all heard it so many times. Well, here today, I'm telling you that you've seen the second part of it, which the media won't show you that. Him and Adam Schiff both say it's the biggest threat is China hacking in and affecting our elections right down to the local races. And then you're also seeing there, it's kind of amazing because we're going to show through this weekend too. Do you know the Democrats warned us of this for 20 years about the machines? 20 years. Okay. And isn't it ironic that now all of a sudden, who's the biggest blockers? The Republicans. They're in every state. All these, you call them rhinos. I call them blockers, from Rassenberger to Robin Voss, Rusty Bowers. Goodbye, Rusty. But these, we go into that. This isn't a Republican or a Democrat problem. This is a people problem. This is a Republican or a Democrat. This is all of us people have a problem, no matter if you are a Democrat or if you are a Republican or if you are an independent. Your votes have been selected, not elected. And this is where we're at. This has actually been, and this weekend will be a uniting of all of us. This will be a uniting of the people to unite against these, get rid of these machines, so we once again elect our officials, elect the people that have the people's back. I'll say one more thing before we go on. We're at an apex in history where the stuff we have out there, from robots to drones. You go over to Australia, a drone comes down and tells you to go back in your house. Okay, artificial intelligence, all this stuff that's coming, and it's here. It's here. Can you imagine having the selections to select the people that were there just selecting, using the machines, and now they're going to be in charge of other machines? It's over if we don't get rid of it. It is over. This is going to be, and there's like 54 countries you're going to hear about that lost their countries to the machines, and they never get to get them back. They don't get to get them back because you think the people that got in charge with the machines are going to get rid of them. Okay. So now we're going back. What else did we hear? Bill Barr, not only he doubled down, tripled down, but he said there's no overturn the election. Here, Bill Barr to the get it up on the big screen here. Okay, I'll try and read it here. I want you to read this. It's my honor, sir, the U.S. Attorney of Pennsylvania Administration. Okay, this guy was a U.S. Attorney, Henry Brown. I'm going to skip that part. I'm going to go over here. On election day and afterwards, our office received various allegations of voter fraud, election irregularities. As part of responsibilities as the U.S. Attorney, I wanted to be transparent with the public and, of course, investigations. Attorney General Barr, however, instructed me not to take out any election irregularities. I have also been given a directive to pass along serious allegations to the state attorney general for investigation. The state attorney general, who has already declared that you could not win. I disagreed with that decision, but those were my orders. As a Marine infantry officer, I was trained to follow the chain of command and to respect the orders of my superiors, even when I disagree with them. Bill Barr hid stuff from the United States. It's disgusting. And the media has used that over and over again. He didn't look into anything. All he did was shut it down, shut it down, shut it down, shut it down. But maybe if Bill Barr would have opened it up, we wouldn't be here. So look at that as a little mini miracle. Thank you, Bill. Okay. And now another thing. Now we're going to start going timeline as we go. What's the next? In Antrim County, Michigan, and let me tell you, another of the biggest lies you ever heard. Okay, one of the biggest lies was this one. Hold on. That the judges looked at everything, and the judges looked at everything, and the evidence was thrown. No, they were thrown out on standing. They were thrown out on standing, everybody. It was a joke. No judge ever looked at anything except for one in Antrim County, Michigan. I'm going to have Pat Colbeck come here and explain what really happened in Antrim County, Michigan. Remember, no other judges ever back then looked at anything. And one of the things this whole weekend is about that I'm going to tell you is you at home watching, judges they're people. They have families, they have grandchildren, children, they have neighbors, they have friends, family. This is to all of them out there, so they can get courage to encourage their judges to just look at stuff. Be that judge and don't kick it down the road. Be that judge. And we need to have that. And I'll let him take over here and tell us what really happened in Antrim County, Michigan. Y'all did hear about it, right? Yeah. And the media did what? Suppressed it. So go ahead.
Well, they couldn't suppress the basic finding that happened on election night. A solid red county by the name of Antrim County up in northern Michigan all of a sudden went blue with Joe Biden. And we had a lot of residents that were up there that were going, what the heck happened here? There's no way our community voted for Joe Biden. And sure enough, they were right. But the initial returns that came out of Antrim County showed that Biden had a decisive victory over Donald Trump. Well, we have what I call our meddling kids that got involved. One of them was Bill Bailey's this regular old citizen that said, this just doesn't make sense. And he went off and he contacted the Antrim County prosecutor, he contacted the FBI field office, and he contacted the Antrim County sheriff. He used in Antrim County confidence that being done accurately, but this is not right, and started doing an investigation. He didn't get anywhere and had to file a lawsuit. And he engaged somebody else whose name you may have heard of, Attorney General candidate Matt DePerno. And Matt's done an excellent job investigating this. And they focused in on two key remedial actions from the lawsuit that was filed. Number one, we want to get access to these machines. We want to find out what's going on under the cover, because this does not make sense. the next thing that they wanted to do was conduct an independent, they happened, not a recount, they were asking for an audit. And why I emphasize that will become clear in a little bit, because to Mike's point, you know, we're not the judge in this case, we're thankful, by the way, that was not able to put restaurant judge took up the case.
Yeah, this judge didn't he take it because it was
When the lawsuit was filed, because we wanted to get
so it slipped through under the radar.
Yeah, there was some lower to down ballot that were and there were some late ballot changes and a bunch of other things happened into it. But the bottom line is, we wanted to get access to those machines because it just did not make sense. All right, so here's a rough little timeline. So, you know, we had the election and something just didn't add up. We had the the results were officially certified. Now, they went back in the evening of November 3rd, November 4th, in the early morning hours and said, oh gosh, I think we kind of messed up on this. And they started going back and recanvassing what actually happened. So they updated the results, and then I'll show you some of those in just a second here. Then they went back and had another canvass and another recount associated with it. They had another County. My eyesight used to be good, and it's not. So I'm going through quite a few of these documents along the way. I'm sure that contributed to it. But we had something amazing that happened as a result of a court order from Judge Elsenheimer, and we got access to these Dominion voting machines.
What? You got access?
We actually got access, and we took a peek under the hood, and we found a lot of things that we're going to go over some of the expert testimony that you probably haven't heard about. They only talk about one of the testimonies that from a professor that the defense counsel brought in, but there's a few others that had something to say about what they discovered. So this is a big deal that we got access to it here on December 6th. After we got that taken care of, they performed what was called a recount. It was the judge ordered an audit in accordance with the remedial action requested. But what they got was a hand recount. We're going to show you the difference between the two in just a sec. And then Secretary of State released this statement that conducted audits. The state under Michigan law and our Constitution, every citizen right to an audit of statewide election results. So she did the audit. Even the details. I'm going to show you an example. What they did was not an audit. It was just an enabled recount. And then finally, we had a case where they dismissed the court case all that all the remedial action provided. So he said you got access to them and you had an audit. Well, that's the official narrative. That's not what actually happened. So by the way, it also court, and they fortunately kept the same decision as in this case. However, they didn't agree with the way he addressed it, but they kind of took their own.
So if I'm saying this right, he looked at everything, but then he just didn't rule on it. He gave access to legalities of what you could do, but then he didn't do anything about it.
Yeah. The worst part about this appeals court ruling is it said, you know, we disagree with how the audit, which is even more dangerous. So here's what the backdrop of all this. So we had a series of 4 different tallies of the votes. We had the first where they showed that Joe Biden won. Then we had another tally, which really was a tally. The county clerk leading the work Antrim County, which I don't know. Be served under. Then they had the result that they decided to go off and certify. And then we had just a slight adjustment to that. Then they had another canvas, if you will, of the results, looking at ballot images. And then last part was the result of that final hand recount. Now, here's the interesting thing about this, and what everybody was told in the media, it was that it wasn't a 7,060 vote swing. The media kept talking about this is just a 12 vote swing. It's nothing to see here. They parroted whatever the Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, said in Michigan at the exclusion of what actually happened. They tried to marginalize and say it's no big deal. But I'll tell you, the final vote flip from the initial report results was 7,060 was now out of 15,000. Indication that something's wrong, and why aren't they talking about the vote count? All right, so here's an example. That last hand count, we had somebody film what happened. And remember, the judge dismissed this case on the basis that an audit had been provided. So I'm going to encourage you to listen to what actually happened, and then we'll highlight why those feathered pages are there. Okay, or we'll just skip ahead. All right, guess who put together the slide? Sorry. What they're showing on here is that there's an election worker that's instructing these people doing the recount. By the way, it's a Republican and a Democrat sitting there, and they're going, something's not right. They're telling them they cannot highlight the fact that the ballots that are feathered in the picture on the left, they were told they couldn't highlight the fact that they had the same signatures on all those ballots. They were write-in candidates specified. When, oh, by the way, township clerk seemed to get all these write-in signatures, but you couldn't talk about that because it wasn't an audit. They were just forcing a glorified recount.
Is this where they deleted the file?
Yeah, well, we're going to get into that in just a sec, but they did delete files. So the official narrative coming out of this, just remember, is that an audit of statewide election results had been conducted. All right, here's something I think you guys are going to find interesting. So here's what happened with that Antrim County clerk. Now remember, that second count that I showed in the initial slide went everything down to zero. It was actually, they got rid of all the election records. Well, here's that clerk explaining her deletion of the election records before
So it's not fraud, it's getting the job done right. And getting those numbers without, because that's why our numbers were inflated. We double published because we didn't know we weren't just replacing, we had to delete. Okay.
Sounds like you just admitted to, one, break law by making changes to a thing within a 30-day period. Two, admitting that you deleted files and destroy the integrity of the election in Antrim County. You admitted to directing your employees to do so. So basically, Antrim County's vote was completely skewed by your office and your meeting.
How do you conduct an audit when you've deleted the records needed for that audit trail?
And did she get arrested?
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
And I'm going to interject here. Is what you're going to see from the start of this all the way, and even all of you out there today that are speaking, one of the common threads is the people that were trying to get it out are the ones getting attacked. And some arrested or trying to be arrested, trying to arrest y'all for trying to get to the truth. Here's a gal that admitted she did say it's a felony. She admitted it, nothing happened. Go ahead.
All right, so that's one thread. There's one thread around the audit that had to be addressed in the court case. The other thread dealt with a lot of the expert testimonials. Remember, we got forensic images, so we had a chance to go up and peek at what actually they found. And I'm going to go through 5 sets of expert testimonials, not in all the detail on it, but I just want to kind of give you a quick overview of what happened. So the first analysis that was done was by a group called ASOG, Allied Security Operations Group, I believe, and headed by Russ Ramflin. And they, in 3 days, took a look at the forensic images and put out a report that highlighted all kinds of malfeasance around the integrity of the data that was on there. They noted the deletion of logs. They denoted bad credential management practice. There's a lot of items that were of concern, including a very high error rate of around 68%. Matter of fact, in one of the communities alone, they actually rejected something to the tune of like 1,100 ballots out of 1,400 ballots. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And this is our highly accurate voting system, right? So he highlighted that in his report. We had another expert.
Okay, let's go back. I want to tell everyone, realize that none of these experts knew each other. They were doing other things in their lives. This is what they did. One you just seen there out of Texas, they've been doing it for decades. This is what they do, okay? They're the ones actually that went in and checked out Dominion, I believe in 18 or 19. Alan Duke can fact check me if he wants, but that's a fact check.
And then we had another expert group, come in, Cyber Ninjas, and they had some same security concerns around lax management. I believe that there's a hard password side of that also appeared in the Maricopa County investigation. I think it was DDS Corp 08 exclamation point. But they also noted some other things happen. So they highlighted that there's non-certified software installed on the machines. This should never be on our voting system because it allows somebody with malware to go off and manipulate all the records in the database. And because of the fact that they something very similar to this was found in Maricopa.
I want to interject one more time. As we go through these experts, realize they know each other. What we were told by the public, they attacked the first, they attacked the Russian group. They just said, I thought there was only one audit done with this. I thought there were only one expert group.
Yeah.
And here, right on the back there was like 5. I mean, this is incredible, but that should have been. Now we got 5.
Yeah, Matt Tapernal did a great job of investigating this and pulled together. One of the other groups that he brought in was a gentleman by the name of Jim Panos, who's a cybersecurity expert. And Jim said, it's something unusual too. And a lot of clerks could be executing these elections thinking everything is done by the book. They're dotting the I's, crossing the T's, but a lot of them know this technology. In case of ES&S machines in a nearby county. So this isn't just Dominion, this is ES&S.
Did you say ES&S?
Yeah, so probably, so they started when you open the hood or the chassis of the machine and you look at the motherboard, 4G wireless modem from Telit Systems. So any that you turn on the same, can I talk to you? Something most clerks for. How many of you ask you on it, go into the motherboard and they know what a 4G wireless chipset looks like? Not a lot of them. But Jim was a technical expert and he found that. You didn't hear too much about that, did you? All right, then we had a great expert, Ben Cotton, came in, and what he found was that not only were these machines able to be connected to the internet, there was actually evidence that there were internet connections with these. Why is that an issue? Because if you connect to the internet, it's a huge security issue. You don't know if you're subject to a man-in-the-middle attack. People could be siphoning your information, take a peek at it before they're supposed to, or people be going off and destroying those records afterwards. And we saw a lot of record destruction along the way. All right, then the Defense Council brought in their expert witness, Professor J. Alex Halderman from my alma mater, University of Michigan. Now, Professor Halderman is phenomenal, and he understands these voting systems inside and out. And the interesting thing is that the Defense Council used them to rebut a lot of the stuff that were said by some of the other experts, but frankly, if you go through line by line, and what he actually said, he actually affirms the majority of the points that were made by ASI Group. Now, his preamble and his and conclusion were very disparaging of Gus and his crew, but when you actually look at the raw content in the middle, I'll tell you, he was actually saying that he's over the target, and there's definitely...
And he's the same professor or whatever that did the Haldeman report, the famous report that's been sitting down that old crooked Brad Rassenberger down in Georgia was involved in, and blocked it from everybody. To this day, I don't believe it's out there.
Yeah, there's a different tone in his discussions about the voting machine vulnerabilities before the November 3rd election and after.
Right. And the Haldeman report, he actually told all these different states, you can't use these machines, or that they were defective.
Yeah. And so, of course, the media picked up on the Haldeman report and said, guys, nothing to see here on the machines. Right. We have a professor that says that all those other reports don't mean a hill of beans. And I'll tell you, I challenge everybody here to go off and look into the details of those reports. So the bottom line on what happened in Antrim County is that it was the first lawsuit in the nation to get access to these machines.
And by the way, everybody, you're going to see over the course of this weekend when we do the trial of the machines, we've gotten inside the machines. Okay? So, we're going to see. So you see here, but they tried to block, and these experts were all able to get inside there anyway and pull stuff out of the cyberspace, so to speak. But we've gotten inside. It's not just, it's multiple brands too. So
it's, and one of the other key takeaways is that obviously there are serious security vulnerabilities in these machines, and even Professor Haldeman said that by number 3rd. Okay, so it was not dismissed on the basis of the minutes. The evidence stands. As a matter of fact, the judge actually said there's a lot of evidence in here considering. He dismissed it on the granted. So please understand that the devil's in the details on all these orders. Antrim County alive and well today on the basis of the evidence, but unfortunately,